Notes on a Visit to Cashel. As I round the last bend, it swerves into sight, an outcrop, isolated elevation of stratified limestone, re-stratified, topped, bookended into slabs and peaks and the round towers' watchfulness, heraldic and compact, Devil's Bit, Patrick's Rock, stone armchair of the Munster kings, below it, the long wall, slung like a sash. The name summons a roundabout of names: Clonmacnoise, Blarney, Jerpoint, Trim, Boyle, cathedrals, abbeys and forts, gutted by war and weather, picked clean by the pilgrim centuries. Behind the names, farmland, towns, traffic, back roads, of an education I had managed to bypass. Windowless eyes of a cottage off the N74 that follow me as I pull in, one of those lichen-spotted farmhouses that wait at the muddy end of a lane, offering a kind of homecoming, damp, tussocky grass, rooms heady with mildew, suitcases packed with yellowed newspapers, one of the tourist spots that drew me, part of that moribund tribe, sniffing out places lonelier than the lonely planet. Recruited now, I am curious to find myself among the armies of the curious. Making the short climb into the rock's solid eclipse, it becomes obvious this is a place to be reckoned with. How had I not blown in here before? Like cats, we love to climb above things, to curl our tails, tuck in our paws, settle and preside. Roofed by snapshots of sky, the cathedral makes a sturdy soundbox for crows. Distracted by the arboreal canopy of calls, I forget what the guide is telling us, something about the stage management of the last Queen's visit, how her retinue of protectors climbed to their outposts right at the rim of the cloud ceiling, raptors with telescopic sights. Below, everything gathers and camps at the foot of the hill, fields, a farmhouse, deep after-shower greens, a puffed-out chestnut tree, its tribute rounded as a world, a faded khaki barn roof laid like a shield, a clothesline's pink and white pixels, two taller trees, crowns merged in an arch, threading the shine of a wet road, an entry, a back door, into the unburied archaeology of slate roofs, pubs, schools, estate agents, pharmacies, betting shops, the weight of a living town, its tangle of medieval streets, caught up, cantering every which way into itself. Who laid the first stones in the old wall's dotted line? Who planted those trees? Who pegged up the clothes? Who painted the barn roof? Who lay in the grass? Who laughed helplessly in the field? Who does his best to banish the dangerous foreign dances? Who fails to heed the warnings and wanders around the countryside? Who is it turning up late for the rendezvous with himself by a fortnight, a month of Sundays, 1,000 years, give or take? Who lies in the grass? Who laughs helplessly in the field? On a relief carving on a headstone, a round-faced angel rising above Christ on his cross, a snail has snuggled into the V-shaped niche hard against the angel's cheek. Go on, I'm listening. Cormac, your chapel stood a century before the hulking cathedral checked your shadow. Today its empty walls harbour your highlight, sandstone quarried and lugged for miles, chiselled, dressed till each block shines bright as a sunbeam propping a cloud, a signal fire on a hilltop. 800 years of rain, the rot quickened by warm breaths, human clouds rising and lingering like trapped prayers. Bits of Cromwell's whitewash flake off, little gleams of gold leaf, sapphire, lapis, sky, robes, faces, frescoes, flickers of an Advent card coming to light. But history does not lodge easily in my head. I want the unquiet grave, the breath that clings to an entrance where spiders have been busy. I am the land trespassed by hail, rain, and sun. I am the hump, the kink in the patterned fields. I am the stone clouds moving aside for a mouse. I am the cow that spilt the moon's immaculate blood. I am the clink of masons, their squared, well-set names. I am the lightning that struck, tumbling the stone cross. I am the woman who refused to give birth to joy or grief. I am the warrior who wept because he was no good at it. I am the fox at the wheelie bin, the pygmy shrew in the grass. I am the first god and the last to unseat the gods. I am the scratch card that made its first Holy Communion. I am the last wolf's howl, still parked on the hill. I am the cat who claims every roof in this town. Walking among the graves outside the chapel, I see straight over streets and houses on the far side a further hill crowned with a dark wood. A ring fort, someone says. I drive across, pull in, at a dry stone wall fenced with bramble and blackberries. Boarding the rising field, feeling slightly foolish, but I've come this far, and the wood, if that's what it is, seems wrapped in its own business until I begin to make out daylight wedged between trunks, a circle of middle-aged trees, a ring, if not a fort. I push through low branches, step in to the vacant arena, its restless stockade of soughing and susurrus, all the filtered consonants. Let them in. Let yourself be woven and turned, dizzy with that fine, toothy voicelessness before breaking out of the self-made trance, parting the branches and stumbling back to the car. Rounding a bend, it swerves out of sight, outcrop of history, a book pushed back on a high shelf, a cat uncurling, a man walking down from a hill, factory of dark flakes, a seam of brightness to take, hightailing into the world.
On this exposed limestone rock on a hill, the crafters and the grafters were never still. Miners quarried the earth for rocks strewn, to glean for building blocks, nature hewn. The oldest, a medieval round tower, stands tribute to the dry stone waller's power. Cormac's Chapel needed German tradesmen. Their sandstone arcs make us believe again. The cathedral, with its cruciform plan, echoes the suffering of one holy man. A gable wall at the vicar's choral is best. It's Sheila na gig, a builder's last jest. Or, thanks very much for the bad pay, working in all weathers, night and day. Me hands are in bits, welted and sore. The gaffer always wants better and more. I miss herself and the kids miles away. I have to kip nightly on lonely hay. Yes, so please enjoy these buildings divine, but just remember the work was all mine. The Rookery at Cashel. Ravens orbit Cashel and its grand rock. To history's rookery we all flock. Those who held the fortress ruled the kingdom. Some Munster high kings shun bardic wisdom. Then Patrick hurled a rock the devil's bit, sacred ground made of defence and stone's grit. O'Brien's gift in 1101, the rock bore witness as the island spun. Marvel the Romanesque Cormac's chapel, arches of loveliness beyond grapple. Normans built the huge Gothic cathedral. They thought size would win history's gold medal. Makes me wonder about men and history. Where were the women in this mystery? I look above the rock and skywards. The female ravens call me forwards. I search the grounds and find a woman fair, covered in green lichen, a statue at prayer. Touch her holy beads, follow her gaze. A raven pecks at pebbles, dusty haze. Track the bird's flight path to the coral wall. She lands near the Sheela-na-gigs, rise and fall. The female ravens orbit Cashel's rock. Women may hold the key to history's lock.
Cashel of the Kings. 1. Faith is luminescent. I apologise for what the O'Briens did, those scoundrels of the Dalgash who transgressed upon your divine Romanesque. This is McCarthy's stone, an Onocht seat with Christ as guest, a refuge where pilgrims might rest after centuries, the immortal place your art made sacred. A sparrowhawk or buzzard in the distance keeps an eye on your chapel still. Neither the blind arcading nor carved tympana could protect you. Dynasties pass. History climbs the spiral stairs to escape the inevitable. Cormac, I address you. In the croft where you hide, above multi-ordered doorways and rib-vaulted shelter, faith is luminescent. Faith is a stone. Faith is the clairvoyance of your symbols in the sunlit valley. Centuries have rained upon your slates as the Onocht kings once reigned. 2. On a Tipperary afternoon, to give praise to heaven, to love in excess as a king can love, to love with the arrival of materials, can seem wicked to those who live on essentials now in our wicked time. Yet, Cormac, you address us still with this great poem you made on a hill, with the hard fact that you could command teams of labourers and circles of artisans in what now seems an excessive gesture, but it was your godlike will to speak of God in a world to ordinary men, so that a traveller on a Tipperary afternoon, when the sky cleared of rain and the sun came out, could see the full blaze of a stone-carved Amen. It's not your impulse or the word of God made such ruins, but time's depredation and the invader's rout. 3. Simon with a ship. How darkened the world is by the removal of bells. How it must have broken the heart of Philip with his loaves in a cloth, or Simon with a ship, or Bartholomew and Matthias with their arsenal of knives. Even Matthew with his axe must have longed to live again and defend the Onocht holy ground. Through the godsend of their 5 books, they still perfect a task that was Christ's last command. Passages in the wall of history help God to live on. Such passages as survive in sainthoods or coats of arms, or pass into heaven through a niche of foliage and animals. Loaves in a cloth and the seafaring Simon remind us of the task within, of how God lives on. 4. Limestone and sandstone. I won't go to the cathedral or the choirs. There is no glory in churchmen, lords or kings not aligned to Cormac's chapel. Limestone and sandstone and the fine quatrefoil openings in splayed embrasures can never move us to song as Cormac does. Stone heads used on capitals are no glory without their Onocht king. I am but a casual labourer grimacing without my prince. Myler McGrath, who gave what we owned to Sir Walter Raleigh, seems somehow fitting. To own this world is to lose something divine, is to be returned from whence we came, a divine chapel, a Tipperary meadow, an Onocht king. 5. The stones of Cashel. Old Myler McGrath, who demanded to be paid twice by church and state for a patrimony made in heaven, was never of a royal kind. Water ingress and uneven vapours spoiled his mind. Roll mouldings simply enticed the weak and witless to cover the blunt whitewash. A devout 12th century of roundels and scrolls, chevron and rosette point to even more noble folds from a lost time when glory burned and became ash. What does it mean, this world of levelled grandeur? The stones of Cashel speak to me with a strange authority. From a rock that once was a capital city, Cormac's city with its minstrels, poets and throne, cruel history that should fill our hearts with pity was glory once. How strange it lives here in this ruin.
One, wind. If only, most lovely of all, I yield myself and am borrowed by the fine, fine wind that takes its course through the chaos of the world. It was ever a windy place. Something about the exposure of that high hill. It could be cold on the warmest of summer days. So many small sweetnesses no longer sheltered there. No candlelight, nor the holy dove. But such clarity the place had, such views in every direction. It would have been the place to lift prayer flags, for surely that Cashel wind could reach blessings to every corner of the land. 2. Charm bracelet. Hiberno meant the land of eternal winter. And me being me, I go all over the rock, looking for signs of nature. Clergy and kings not having half the potency of meadow flowers. I'm curious about the plants they used for ale, how honey became mead, how rosemary and sage made metheglins that Pepys said could stupefy and keep a humming in the brain. I want to know which strewing herbs they tossed on floors, pennyroyal against ticks, hyssop, fleabane, rue for the churches, mint and chamomile to sweeten air. The higher you build, the closer you come to heaven, the guide said. But I bent low to the ferns in the walls, searching the cracks of history for any clue. Wattle marks in the plaster, a sandstone bull with wings, an eagle feathered with granite diamonds like the scales of a fish. It was like following a trail of crumbs, nature banished to mere decoration, ornament on the furniture in the museum, wooden acorns, an oaken swathe of foliage, an 8-petaled rose. But I kept on looking, stringing a catechism, like collecting charms for a bracelet, a frieze of grapes on a limestone vine, a long-stemmed lily whose petals strained towards God, whose sepals spiraled back to the good earth. It is hard to find her intricacies within all the grandeur, but nonetheless she is there, the feminine, lifting her lovely head. 3. The years of my mothering. The rock was ever in the background, steady and dependable as my view of the Cumras, as much a part of Tipperary as the river shore and the Galtee Mountains and the Devil's Bit. Iconic, it carried all the splendour and pomp of male history. Iconic, it meant Ireland, invasion, colonisation, and faith. So mostly I ignored the rock, except when visitors came and you had to show them round, a stiff breeze blowing, and tea afterwards by the fire in the Cashel Palace Hotel. But it was local, see? Local as standing on the side of a GAA pitch with your son playing and the rain lashing down. Local as the blue and gold of the Tipperary flag. Local as the green and white of the Grange Mokla jersey Michael Hogan was shot in on that first bloody Sunday up in Croke Park. The rock was local as the sudden scent of turf smoke in September, local as the Golden Veil, and Golden itself, and Holy Cross, Killinall, Ballinure, feathered, equine country, with all the nobility of the Irish horse. Someone telling me a horse's heart weighs 10 times that of a man's, and it was those hearts we lived among. For it was in the shelter of the rock that I spent the years of my mothering. So if, like the salmon, my children are ever called back to their spawning grounds, this is where they will come. Sometimes I ask myself, what did I give them with my threadbare poet's life? But what they breathed was the clean air of the heather moors of Slievenamon, and what they drank was clear spring water. They grew up in the small lanes of Tipperary, with the skiock and the hawthorn, and when I think of those years, it is always May or June, the white of cow parsley along the ditches, the chestnut trees in bloom. If I gave them anything, it was these neighbours, these friends, these fields like a cloak to their backs. It was the boughs of these trees they climbed in their hand-me-downs. And all the time the rock was there, like the hub of the wheel our lives turned around. So when you came on it suddenly cresting a hill, there it was, crowning the horizon. And you didn't think of history or high kings. You only knew what belonging meant, how it was to feel yourself at home. Four, stare. I confess what I loved most was the spiral stair to the scriptorium, unembellished stone steps, ascending towards stylus and vellum, awakening within me a deep feeling of recognition, the pathway to work, seclusion, paper and ink, precious as holy wine. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The stairs were like the touch of a hand to my brow, anointing me scribe, tasked with praise and the instruction to capture any small glimmer of the immensities, the miraculous nature of creation. Five. Banasri, the High King, speaks. I have always thought she looked her loveliest from here. Here more than anywhere, she gave herself to me, this rock our bridal bed. When I married her, she gave me her intricacies, apple blossom, bird song, the salmon's rainbow breast, the white swans and the white geese. The word fesh meant to sleep with the goddess, to be permeated by her. When I married her, I became the mountains, I became the forest. Her soft rain fell, and I grew as grain. When I married her, she turned me copper, gave me the strength of iron. She crowned me with the gold crest's burnished head. In her embrace, I was kingfisher, turquoise, emerald, amber. She released me as falcon on the wing. The veins in my wrists became the rivers of the land. When anything happens to her, it happens to me. It is my relationship with the land which grants me sovereignty, this rock, our bridal bed. For her, it was strewn with the creamy white petals of elderflower, of meadowsweet. She never left our bedchamber without an offering for my palm, acorn, seashell, chrysalis, amethyst, a hazelnut drilled open by a dormouse. And after her leaving, the room echoed with her, a steady incantation, to earth, to earth, to earth, meaning people, meaning place.